Hello, today I will be presenting The French Lieutenant's Woman by John Fowles. And my presentation subject is on Victorian society and their social expectations. Now, first, I will give you a little plot summary, then characters, themes, and then, of course, my presentation subject. And at the end, couple quote to support my subject. First, the plot. So the story is set in Victorian England and follows Charles Smithson, a wealthy gentleman engaged to conventional Ernestia Freeman. He becomes infatuated with Sarah Woodruff, the enigmatic and disgraced woman known as the French Lieutenant's Woman, due to a scandalous past involving a French naval officer. The novel explores their emotional entanglement and Charles' struggle between social expectations and personal freedom. So this is basically the plot. And the characters are Sarah Woodruff, who is a woman emotionally complex and rejects social norms and ultimately asserting her own agency. Then we have Charles Smithson. He represents Victorian masculinity and privilege. And we have Ernestia Freeman. She's a symbol of social order, conventional femininity, and materialism. These are basically the characters, and I will give you some themes. The first one is freedom and Victorian constraint. Fowles constructs her unconventional, mysterious nature with the strict moral codes of Victorian society. She represents a challenge to the norms and a symbol of independence. Gender and power. Sarah subverts traditional gender roles. While she appears to be a fallen woman, she exercises a unique form of autonomy, manipulating her own narrative and decisions. Choice and free will. The novel challenges deterministic views. Fowles inserts himself as a narrator, reminding readers that characters and people have the power to choose, highlighted by the novel's multiple endings. Metafiction and authorial intrusion. Fowles constantly breaks the fourth wall. He comments on the story, the characters, and the act of writing itself. This draws attention to the fictional nature of the novel and challenges traditional narrative authority. So, freedom and Victorian constraint, gender and power, choice and free will, and metafiction and authorial intrusion are basically the themes. So now my subject, Victorian society and social expectations. There are different titles under this subject, and the first one is gender roles and expectations. Victorian women were expected to be pure, obedient, and dependent on men. Their main role in society was marriage and motherhood. In contrast, men held authority, made decisions, and were seen as rational moral leaders of households and society. Sarah Woodruff breaks all of these expectations. She lives independently, doesn't seek marriage, and embraces her reputation as an outcast. By doing so, she exposes how restrictive and unfair Victorian gender norms were, especially for women who didn't fit the mold. And the second subject, reputation and morality. Victorian society placed extreme importance on public image and moral behavior. A single scandal, especially involving a woman's sexuality, could destroy someone's social standing. Sarah is labeled the French lieutenant's woman because of a remote affair. This label alone is enough to make her an outcast, even though the full story is never really known. Ernestia Freeman, Charles's fiancée, represents the ideal respectable woman, but her character lacks the depth and freedom Sarah possesses. The third subject is class and social mobility. Class structure in Victorian England was rigid. People were expected to marry within their class, maintain family honor, and not associate with those beneath them. Charles, a gentleman of wealth and status, faces a personal crisis when he falls in love with Sarah, who is beneath him in status and socially disgraced. His internal conflict reflects how class expectations control personal choices. Love, marriage, and freedom were all dictated by social rank. Hypocrisy and control. Fowles reveals the hypocrisy of Victorian values. Characters often follow social rules not because they believe in them, but out of fear of judgment. Charles pretends to be a moral man but secretly desires freedom and patience. Society is shown as a system that limits individuality, rewards conformity, and punishes those who rebel. And now I have a guess too. Yes, I have two quotes. The first one is there is only one good definition of God, the freedom that allows other freedoms to exist. So the meaning, the significance of this quote is this quote reflects the tension between Victorian religious orthodoxy and emerging existential ideas. Victorian society often used religion to justify rigid social hierarchies and moral expectations, while the novel critiques its control. The second one is the age of the theme is the age of guilt. The significance is Fowles links technological progress in the Victorian era with moral rigidity and repression, suggesting that advancements were paired with stricter social expectations. And the last one is, are my works cited? So this is my presentation. Thank you for listening. And I'm just gonna end this record now. Thank you so much.